Justice of the Montana Supreme Court, Judge Lynch. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Judge Lynch is a native of Butte. He received his bachelor's degree from Carroll College, JD from University of Montana, and a master's degree from Montana State. He served as 14 years as a permanent law clerk for then District Judge Paul Hatfield, very distinguished jurist in his own right. Jerry spent a decade in private practice and then became a federal magistrate judge for Montana, in a position in which he served for 13 years. His opponent is Corey Swanson, the Broadwater County Attorney. So Judge Lynch, I think as you're aware, the Montana Supreme Court over the years has been praised as a visionary court by some and a court out of touch by others. How do you assess the Montana Supreme Court?
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today, and thank you for all being here. Before I answer the judge's question, I want to tell you why I'm running. One day I woke up from retirement and said to my wife of 49 years, Terry, I think I'm going to run for the Supreme Court. She said, are you sure? The next day, probably many of you do, I woke up and I said, how did you sleep? And she said, not worth a damn. I had a nightmare you were running for the Supreme Court. But let me tell you, I spent so many years in the judiciary, obviously born and raised in Montana, and the attack on our judiciary is unprecedented. It's a false dichotomy where folks pass unconstitutional laws and then make it a political ping pong ball out of those laws. Getting back to what the judge says, what do I think about the current Supreme Court? I've been in the legal business and the judicial business for nearly 40 years. The current Supreme Court we have is the most moderate court that we have had in my tenure. Not that the other courts weren't fine. This is a fine court. Diverse opinions, don't agree with everything what they may do, but they are a sound court. What's happening again, I go back to the false dichotomy, where there's a power grab by those powers that be in the legislature and the executive branch to undermine the integrity of our courts. We can't have that. Our courts stand independent under our Constitution. Why is judicial independence important? I think you all know. It's because the judicial independence is what protects each of your constitutional rights. We may disagree in the political spectrum of what's right and what's wrong in terms of how do we raise money to pay for things, how do we spend money. When it comes to individual rights, I think most Montanans are on the same page, so to speak. Our Constitution is the finest Constitution in the United States. 100 delegates came together in 1972 from all spectrums of the political arena and passed a Constitution that is truly remarkable. We have to protect that Constitution. Why? I'm running, I say this, and I don't know if I'm answering the judge's question, but I'm running for 12 reasons. Bear with me, I won't be long. 1 through 10 are my grandchildren. 11 are your families, your children, your grandchildren. 12 is the future generations, the voices yet unheard, which we owe an obligation to, as the stewards of their future, to protect their constitutional rights. For instance, the right to a free, quality public education. Do you agree with me on that? Secondly, that each of them can rest assured that they can make the decisions they wish to make that inform how they wish to lead their lives free from unnecessary government interference, and the one on the table today is reproductive freedom. I will follow the precedent of the Montana Supreme Court in Armstrong. I'm not prejudging cases. My opponent criticizes me. I'm not prejudging anything. I will follow the precedent so that every person knows that they can make their own medical decisions as they see fit to lead their own lives. Do you agree with that? Third, as I think one of the other speakers mentioned, we have an obligation of the stewards of their future to ensure that they share the same Montana we've shared. I drove down Highway 25, then 200. I don't get to do it very often. I mean, what a remarkable spot, as is all of Montana. But we have to ensure that they have the right to public access and stream access that we have had. They have the right to clean air, to clean water. Do you agree with that? Finally, the one thing that's come up lately, I'm going to speak to this in a moment if the judge gives me time, about the right to vote. Everybody should have the right to vote, unencumbered. My opponent, just so you're aware, represented an individual by the name of Jay Geaton. And the whole purpose of the lawsuit was to suppress the votes of 6,000 Montanans, biggest conspiracy, as I call it, to suppress votes. It was aimed at, number one, Native Americans. It was aimed, number two, at students. That's unacceptable. That's who my opponent is, and I don't like to degrade people. The good judge and myself, we're supposed to be neutral. I am neutral. I will be neutral, but I will be honest. So what I need from you is, I may look like the Lone Ranger, I may act like the Lone Ranger, but I am not. So every one of you out there have to contact every person you can to support me if you believe in what I'm saying. Thank you.
I'm going to move down here to this end of the table. Make it easier to pass the microphone. Thank you, Judge Lynch. You're coming from an environment where you've worked either for a single judge or as a single judge for many, many years. You would be moving into a court with other members of different persuasions. How do you think your decision-making style and your leadership would lend itself to that more diverse and numerous bench?
Good question, thank you. One of the things that I feel proud about as a judge was, I think, being totally impartial. I think if you look at the contributors to my campaign, it's attorneys from both sides of the bar, both defense attorneys and plaintiffs' attorneys. The other side comes out with these things of a, quote, liberal trial attorney. Just nonsense. I represented people that needed help, and I'm proud of that. In answer to the judge's question, one of the things that I was able to accomplish, both as a private attorney and as a judge, was to resolve issues through mediation, through settlement. Let me give you a couple examples. One of the things I'm proudest of is resolving, after a year and a half of work with the attorneys and the parties, was the resolution of the state of Montana's natural resource damage case against ARCO, i.e. the Anaconda Company in the past, which affects you folks down here. And it ended up in a $250+ million settlement. I'm proud of that because I could have the people come together. That will serve me, I think, when I serve on the Supreme Court. The other case I'm very proud of is a Voting Rights Act case, where the Native Voice, Native tribes sued the state of Montana to obtain the right to get the opportunity to vote on an equal basis. After many days of discussion and work, I was able, and this is hard for me to, I don't want to seem like a braggadocio, please bear with me, but you need to know me. I was able to resolve that case where there were satellite offices established on all of the Native American reservations throughout the state of Montana, 7 of them, where they would have an opportunity, the people, to go and vote and early register without the encumbrance of having to travel 100 miles, for instance, if you're from Pryor, Montana, if any of you have ever been there. It's not easy. We have some people that unfortunately don't have the wherewithal that maybe most of us do, or hopefully we do. But anyway, that to me was a very, very challenging but important decision that I think helped the people of Montana. So in answer to your question, I can do this. I'm not stubborn. My wife may say that, but I'm not. But anyway, I'm willing to work with people. I'm willing to work with the legislature in terms of the false dichotomy, if you will, between what's happening with the legislature and the judicial branch. Make no mistake about it, please. The legislature is after a power grab. We need an independent court. We need an independent court for the reasons I stated previously, to protect your constitutional rights. And I don't care which side of the political spectrum you're from. I mean, you know, one day the shoe fits on one foot, it may fit on the other foot the next day. What we need to do is ensure that our constitutional rights enshrined in our 72 Constitution, again, which is a marvelous document, is protected. The only way that is protected is by an independent judiciary, because I forget the fellow's, I think it was Ramsey Clark, Attorney General from years ago, who said, which motivates me, a right is not what someone gives you. It's what no one can take from you. So what I'm saying to you, you need an independent judiciary so that your rights are not taken from you.
Thank you. One more question. You've talked about conflict resolution and your approach to it. How do you remain an independent branch of government, but yet still have a cooperative, constructive relationship with the legislature and the governor?
Again, very good question. Today, as most of you know, there is a discussion, I won't say battle, between the legislature and in particular and the court. The court's simply doing its job, in my view, of if as a legislature you decide to entertain a bill or pass a law that even your own legislative attorneys have said, you got problems with this. I think it's unconstitutional, but nonetheless you pass it so that you can make political ping pong out of that. I would say this, that, I'm very firm in this. I will stand up for the independence of the judiciary because of the importance of that. And when I hear we have like a special legislative select committee that's going to invest the judiciary, I say, for what? For doing their job? Don't be fooled by that. Or when I hear the Senate or the head of the select committee, the head of the Senate say, if you can imagine, well, to Judge Menahan, who's a tremendous judge in Helena, because he did his job and he goes and appears and then he says, well, I'm going to quote Oliver Wendell Holmes. Yeah, you could be subjected if you don't show up and testify. I think most of you are probably aware of this subpoena issue that's the legislature keeps wanting to subpoena the judge's records and everything. But in any event, when someone says to me, to that judge, well, you could suffer the penalty of a fine or loss of limb or life, quoting Oliver Wendell Holmes, which somebody had to drag that up for him, knowing him. But the point is that we can't deal with treachery when it comes to our judicial system, period. We need to have an independent judicial system, and I will work cooperatively with either the executive branch or the legislative branch. But as Chief Justice, I will not be intimidated because that's what's happening.
Thank you very much.